listener production.
Hey, it's Helen Smith here for The Briefing. Can Australian councils make homelessness illegal? Councils in Queensland and Victoria have rolled out plans to effectively ban homelessness with move-on laws, prohibiting people from sleeping on council land, roads, footpaths and even in their cars. Brian Mears from the City of Port Phillip Council in Victoria said the reasoning behind the new policies is to crack down on crime.
There are people, itinerants, people with drug issues lying about on Fitzroy Street and other streets and in the parks and gardens that need help. We are trying another way, further strengthening the laws around encampment, engaging in criminal conduct. Fining is one of the things that the laws provide for.
But community leaders are arguing that this paints a very narrow picture of what homelessness looks like. And in Queensland, Nourish Street and Northwest Community Group sent an open letter to all levels of government declaring the policies by their local council is an emergency and a violation of human rights. Beau Haywood is the founder of Nourish Street and faced a 25-year battle with addiction himself and a journey through homelessness. Beau, are councils in Australia trying to make homelessness illegal?
What they're doing is they're going around telling everyone that it's no longer allowed to camp on public land, and they're giving them a notice period of about 2 weeks to move on. And if that doesn't happen, they'll be issued with another letter or notice, which will implicate fines of between $800 to $8,000.
And Beau, we might be able to hear right now, there's a bit of wind in the background. You're in Queensland right now where they're currently preparing for a tropical cyclone Alfred. What's happening in the ground there at the moment? What are people doing if they are homeless?
Well, look, I went around last night to go and let people know of the impending danger. And a lot of them don't have mobile phones. So some of them they knew that there's a cyclone coming, but they weren't really aware of the impact it's going to have on them. So a lot of them had gone and got tent pegs and pitched down their tents. And I said to them, look, I think it's going to be a lot more than that. If it's not the wind or the trees up above that could come crashing down, there's going to be a lot of rain. And I've seen what 100 mils of rain does to the ground around here, let alone 300 to 600 mil like they're predicting. There are going to be some facilities open. I believe council building on Gympie Road and Strathpine will be open, so will the libraries for refuge during the day. I haven't heard when these are going to be opening yet, and I think for the vulnerable people out there, they need a little bit more time than what other members of the community have. Although it mightn't seem like they've got much to pack up, what they do have is the only belongings they've got, and most of them don't have vehicles. So the more time that's given for these people to get to these places of refuge, the better. It shouldn't really have to be pissing down with rain before they open them up.
And you mentioned there you went around to some of the parks that these people are staying in, and these are examples of places where they would be kicked out or moved on with these hefty fines. You've sent an open letter to all levels of government about the new laws that effectively make homelessness a criminal offence. Can you run me through what the letter was asking?
Basically, we're asking that they retract on the policy for now. It's all very well asking people to move on, but when they've got nowhere to move on to, it causes a lot of anxiety and mental health for those people that are affected. I'm already seeing that. Look, I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to cost lives. If you're going to ask people to move on, at least have some housing options open for them. Giving people 2 weeks' notice, and with roughly 140 people that I know of that are going to be affected by this, I don't see there being a housing solution that's suitable for everyone. And when I say suitable, look, some of the housing that's been offered, there's a gentleman who has a disability. He was offered a 2-story apartment. There was another woman who has addiction issues and mental health, and she was asked to go in a boarding house. So some of these offers of accommodation are not suitable, and really there needs to be suitable stuff offered.
Yeah, you've also said that the policies not only breach Australian laws, but it also violates international human rights obligations. What do you mean by that? Is that just asking that housing is a human right?
Oh, no doubt. Housing and food is a human right, and no one should really be denied that. I think that by moving people on out of the tents that they've got into more uncertainty and more homeless, if you like, that is infringing on human rights.
So what happens when someone who's experiencing homelessness is faced with a fine? Like, generally, the top of my head, I think, well, if they're homeless, how are they meant to pay an $8,000, a $4,000, some crazy fine? What actually happens then?
At the end of the day, and in all reality, these people don't have the money to pay the fines. I've asked some of them, how will this affect you? And they said, look, fine me. I'll put it on my spur. They really don't have the money for it. I mean, if they had the money, they'd just go into accommodation, if they could find it, of course.
Now, you were told by the mayor of your council area that your organisation was enabling homelessness. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, what I believe he meant by that is that by us offering food and camping equipment to those that are most vulnerable, it was causing people to come to Moreton Bay. Now, I know our food is good, but it's not worth being homeless for. Yeah, and like I said, food and shelter are two fundamentals of human rights. No one should be denied that, and I think that statement was totally off tap.
Is the council offering any other solutions? Rather than saying that you guys are enabling homelessness, are they actually saying, well, here's some accommodation or here's some better solutions?
No, the council are claiming that the housing is not a council responsibility, and I do understand that it falls on state and federal government. And they're hoping that they are going to be playing their part in facilitating this. They have had housing vans going out there talking to these people. But let me make it quite clear, there's a huge difference between talking to these people and these people actually being offered suitable accommodation. In the 12 months I've been doing this, I've seen a lot of talk, and I've seen approximately 15 people go into accommodation. So the wheels turn really slow. How they hope to house 140 people in 2 weeks is beyond me, and I don't think it's going to happen. The council haven't really offered anything. There are options that they could look into. They could open up a block of land, put some facilities on it and let the people go there. That way it would keep the beachfronts tidy, which is, I believe, a lot of what this crackdown has to do with. The people don't go to the beachfronts just because it's a nice view. They go there because there's showers and there's toilets. You don't get those in other toilet blocks around the place. So that's why a lot of people go to the beachfront. Really, if they wanted people to move away from those areas, put a block of land in, some toilets, some showers, a little bit of security. That way it can go to a place where the services can still provide. When they disperse people out of the area, people are no longer able to liaise with services such as mine and housing and various other organisations that are out there that go to help these people. So it makes it really hard for us to sort of continue to do the help that we do when we can't find them.
Yeah, what is the solution to this? Because to the general public, it sounds like handing out fines and move-on orders doesn't really help the solution. How can we help improve people get off the streets?
Well, we need more temporary accommodation and we need more housing. I think it's that simple. Although it is obviously going to take some time to happen. We've got an awesome COVID-19 facility sitting down there at Pinkenbar, which is being used for police training, I believe. Look, I'm not an Einstein, but it kind of makes sense to me that if there's a need and there's a place, you put the two together.
Now, in Victoria, a council is doing a similar thing. The City of Port Phillip Council have said that their fines and plans to essentially make homelessness illegal are in a response to crack down on crime, in particular drug-related offences. Is this really the best approach, just to hand out fines?
Well, look, first of all, let me say that not everyone out there is an addict, for starters. There is retired people out there, families, people that are doing it tough, people that have fallen on hard times, an 84-year-old man, 70-year-old woman. The amount of over 60s I see is increasing. Now, these people aren't on drugs. If they've got issues with particular people that may be doing the wrong thing, then obviously that would become an issue for the police, and those people, would be addressed appropriately. But I think painting everyone with the same brush is unfair. We've got retired people out there, returned soldiers, people over 60, families, people that are doing it tough. Homelessness isn't just for drug addicts and alcoholics.
Now, you've actually experienced homelessness yourself and you're the founder of Nourish Street. Can you tell us about a bit of the work that you do and how you guys are supporting, and I guess in the Mayor's voice, you're enabling homelessness, but how are you actually helping these people on the ground and, making a better future for them?
Okay, so a bit of my background is I was a methamphetamine addict for 25 years. It got to a point in my life where it was causing chaos at home. My partner had enough and kicked me out. I became homeless again. At that point, I had a pretty big patch of despair, I guess, and I decided to go to rehab and get cleaned up. That was 17 months ago. So since then, I haven't looked back. And when we go around and we see people that are dealing with addictions, I use my experience. I tell them, look, I was camping in this exact park just 17 months ago. And, if you want to change, there's help out there. So far, since doing this work, we've inspired 7 people to go to rehab, which is a massive win. But, Nourish Street is about food, but not just food. It's about compassion and, talking to these people and then getting to know them, letting them know that, people out there care. What we do is we provide 120 meals per night, 5 nights a week, to 120 homeless people in Strathpine, Launton, Petrie, Kalanga, Bray Park, Mango Hill and Redcliffe. It takes me about 5.5 hours to deliver the meals. And, that also allows us time to have a chat. We're a tent-to-tent service, so we don't just pull up in the park and expect everyone to come to us. By going around to everyone individually, that allows us time to have that interaction together and to have a talk about what's going on in their life and see if we can't sort of hook them up with housing services and other things that we have access to.
Beau, thanks so much for sharing your story and thank you for coming on The Briefing.
Thanks for having me.
That was Beau Haywood, founder of Nourish Street. And if you want to check out their work and support them, you can find them on Facebook. Just search for Nourish Street. Or you can find their website. It's www.nourishstreetinc.org. And that's it for this episode of The Briefing. Before you go, though, if you could subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast on right now, hit subscribe or follow. That really does help us keep pumping out the content that you love. And if you want to keep up with our other content, you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast and on TikTok and YouTube. Just search for Listener Newsroom. We'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I'm Helen Smith. See you next time.
Listener.